My name is Jill Cohen, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Washtenaw County. I welcome you to our online forum featuring candidates for the Washtenaw Board of Commissioners, District 6. These candidates will be on the ballot in the primary election on Tuesday, August 2nd. For more than 100 years, the League of Women Voters has worked to expand voter rights and educate voters. The League is a nonpartisan organization that neither endorses nor opposes candidates or political parties. However, we do take stands on issues we have studied. The League is providing this forum as an opportunity for candidates to express their views related to their candidacy. Statements expressed by the candidates are not endorsed nor opposed by the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters does not certify any candidate responses to questions as accurate. Voters are encouraged to fact-check information shared at this forum. We bring you tonight's program because we deeply believe that an honest and respectful sharing of different views on the issues facing our communities is vital to the functioning of American democracy. Our moderator this evening is John Chamberlain, who will explain the format and get us started.
Start over. Okay. The format for tonight is that each of you will get an opening statement of 1 minute. Each of you will get a closing statement of 90 seconds. And in between, I will ask questions that come from the community. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. And at appropriate times, the timekeeper, Sandy Elser, will hold up her 30-second sign, and finally, at the end of that, her stop sign, and you can finish your sentence, but at that point, you should hurry to a conclusion. The candidates will be speaking in alphabetical order by last name. Each candidate will have an opportunity to be first or last to answer a given question. We're now ready for opening statements. Mr. Jefferson.
Good evening. I'm Ricky Jefferson, Washtenaw County Commissioner for District 6, and I want to thank the League for allowing me to come and share tonight. I have been in the area all of my life and been in politics and making sure that I serve the public for 10 years. Actually, 12 years, but so 2 of those years I was doing other things than public office. So I'm here tonight to let you know that I stand for a lot of children, a lot of seniors, a lot of people in my community who want to make a living in this city. So I continue to find out what they need so that I can help them do that. You know, quality education, early childhood, child care, and senior citizens services, and also making sure that the parks are going to be still funded, and that we have community health workers, that public health, that help us advocate for our low-income citizens. Thank you very much.
May we have your opening statement?
Thank you. My name is Annie Sommerville, and I'm running for Washtenaw County Commission in District 6, which covers the City of Ypsilanti and parts of Ypsilanti and Superior Township. I currently serve on Ypsilanti City Council, and I work as Chief of Staff to State Senator Jeff Irwin. I'm lucky and honored to have the privilege to work on both local and state issues. I've lived in Ypsilanti for almost 10 years, and I'm very lucky to call this home. I grew up in Southwest Detroit, and I experienced extreme poverty, and I watched my mom struggle with substance health issues and homelessness, and it's really kind of shaped me into the person I am, and it's why I care about the issues that I care about. So the issues that I care about are, I believe in access to food and clean water and housing and both physical and mental health care. And I live by that every single day and try to make sure people have the resources they need to thrive.
Thank you, candidates. And now to the questions. As a reminder, I will read each question once, and it will not be repeated unless you request that, in which case I'm happy to reread it. And we'll start with Ms. Sommerville. And for the first question, please identify the top 3 concerns citizens in Washtenaw County District 6 have expressed to you. If you are elected, describe the steps you would take to address one of them and how you would pay for it.
Okay, thank you very much. The top 3 issues that I've talked to folks about in the district are housing access, infrastructure needs relative to climate change and climate resiliency, as well as health equity, both physical and mental health and reproductive services. So I guess I'll start with, since it's, I think, something that will help across many areas, especially healthcare as well. Housing access, my plans to navigate that are to expand supportive housing, so people have resources that they need to stay, sober if they're experiencing substance use issues, and also stay housed so they can stay out of hospitals and jails. But also expanding missing middle housing by taking advantage of brownfield tax credits, as well as expanding senior affordable housing countywide, because it's a clear need in Ypsilanti, and we bear a lot of the burden by housing shortages that are a county issue. So I plan to really prioritize both budgetary and leveraging state and federal resources to really handle housing inequities, and really taking a look at how we can stabilize folks who are paying more than 30% of their income for rent. And I think it's relative to being resilient in the climate crisis, as well as decriminalization, as well as keeping people healthy, both physically and mentally. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Jefferson, same question.
Okay, yes, I am definitely looking at having the county invest more into economic development, but I also want to continue to do the work that I do with community mental health and with public health, so that we can have ways for our violence that is prevalent within Ypsilanti and Ypsilanti Township to be combated. And also, I'd like to see more of our youth have events and things to do within a safe place of the county. So I plan on working with the commissioners to create a pathway on how to research and to assess what it is that we need to do to draw businesses here. I've already done some work in the township with allowing the township to have an assessment funding for the ACM area, so they could check and see what it is that can draw businesses there. I'd like to see a community effort between those who are in the community and within social work and within community mental health and public health to come together to try and combat what we're experiencing here as far as the violence goes. We could pay for that through our means right now. We're doing some of that within the ARP dollars, but we will have to do a long-term funding if that's going to be successful. And also with the education of our children in a safe place after school. They need tutoring, they need skills to work, to find, to do workplace skills and those type of things within the community, so that we can find ways to make them one of the top places where businesses will come and find that we have talent. So we need to find training for them also within our workforce, because it has diminished some here in the entire state. We want to continue to work on that.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to question 2, which Mr. Jefferson gets to lead off on. The county has received substantial funds under the American Rescue Plan Act. Some residents of zip codes 48197 and 48198 are concerned that these federal funds are not being fairly allocated to their neighborhoods and are not being spent consistent with federal government guidelines. What is your view on this?
Well, the federal government guidelines that come from the United States Treasury have been examined by our administration, by our communication and operations liaison, who we have hired to make sure that we are definitely going to spend those dollars, that the way that they're supposed to be spent, because our county administrator has to sign for those things. And if things don't go right, some people can be held liable. So we don't want that to happen. So some of the things that the community had problem with, as you spoke of 48197, is that the first allocation, there were several things that went in there, but one was 15 million to do broadband infrastructure over in Western County. Western County had been a target of ours for broadband for 2 years, and we had a stakeholder task force who had created a very well done investigation, and also had found a developer, someone who would do the infrastructure. So by the time that money got there, we were okay with allowing that to happen, because it was there in time to help those children that live over there have more internet services, so they don't have to go outside in the winter to get internet at service in a parking lot of a library. And so we did do a lot of other things with that money. We created other things to child care funding, so that there could be some subsidized funding for those who are looking for child care, and also to help them find good child care. We also did the weatherization program, which gives those who are low income the opportunity to have their houses weatherized, whether it's roofing or windows or even heaters and those type of things, water heaters. But we also did a children's savings account, which kids in 48197, 198 will receive $500 depending upon their income, so that it can go into a savings account. So we have 2 and 3 more, and we definitely focus on 48197 with those 2 and 3 allocations.
Thank you. Ms. Sommerville, same question.
Thank you. Yeah, I think many of the voices that have been engaged in pushing for more attention on 48197 and 48198 in particular. And I think there was also, there was a big push to get just more engagement, people who can't generally show up to in-person meetings, and even sometimes can't attend Zooms or don't know about it. So I think there's always room for more engagement to get more people and their voices represented. And I also think sometimes it matters who is there, who's in the room making some of the early decisions in the process. So I think overall, there were community engagement efforts. I think many people often don't understand many different levels of government. There were also many different categories of how the U.S. Department of Treasury said funds could be used. I think some people have shared frustration and with what was prioritized, but I think that that's valid. I think many people have different perspectives on what is a priority and what can most impact people that have been the most impacted by COVID-19. And I think what we saw in Ypsilanti is that people that had a history of lack of preventative health care, lower income, low wage workers, people who had difficulty sustaining housing, those are the people most impacted. And I think personally, I would like to see more priority on long-term sustainability for access to housing, because we know that that goes into how people, their physical and mental health overall, and it keeps them stable, but also keeps people from cycling out of prison and jail and hospitals if they're safe and stable in housing. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the third question, Ms. Sommerville, you get to start first on this one. Please describe a specific example of how you made a difficult decision because of a core belief value that is important to you.
Well, back to housing. We have a few developments that are in the process of coming before me and my colleagues on city council. And we've had lots of tough conversations about the future of Ypsilanti and how to make it more accessible in density and all relative to affordability and climate change and making our community more walkable. The city of Ypsilanti is very small. We're 4.2 square miles and we don't have room to build out, but we can build denser. I've been very supportive of increasing density, which can often be very controversial, but I believe deeply that we need to build more dense in our urban areas and protect our green spaces in other parts of the county as we continue to navigate both housing affordability issues nationwide, but really here in Michigan, as well as the future housing needs as we see an increase of folks moving to Michigan from other states. How can we keep Ypsi from being further gentrified, really as a result to the climate crisis? So currently in the middle of making tough decisions. And I think what I've weighed is the most marginalized. Who's going to be the most marginalized if we don't invest in housing access now? And that's just, it's just kind of my moral compass is, are people who are already disadvantaged, are they going to be helped by this? And if so, then I feel confident in my decision, even though it can be contentious. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jefferson.
This is Mike. All right. So Washtenaw County is the 8th most segregated, economic separated county in the entire United States. So we have to find ways that we can make that gap close. One of the things that came to me that was, something I know we need, which was a public health / senior citizens tax that was going to go to a vote for a millage at the last couple of years ago. And so I had to really research that to find out where the money was going to be spent and find out what was the entity that was going to be the fiduciary for those dollars, and didn't get a lot of questions answered about that. And so I started to question that, and to the point to where eventually all 9 of us commissioners decided not to put it on the ballot. And then a few months later, it turned out to be that it is totally illegal to do 2 initiatives on 1 ballot for a tax millage. And so that was very hard for me to do because I see what our seniors are struggling with. I know with my family and within my neighborhood, how those Wheels on Mill bring are so important to them and how those things need to be funded. So that was very hard for me to say that, knowing that they need it. But in one of our allocations for the ARP dollars, that one that's coming up now, we're going to have some dollars in there to support senior services. So I'm glad about that.
Thank you. Okay, on to the next question. And Mr. Jefferson, you're first this time. Does the county commission have legal authority to enact gun safety laws? And if so, what would you have the city do for the county?
Thanks for that question. It is definitely something that we do not have authority for, but there are things that we have to follow as a government entity that, those laws that come down from the state and the federal government. There's no laws that allows any municipality to restrict gun stores, gun shops, gun, whatever you want to call them, ranges, whatever. And therefore, there is also the county who has that, I guess, the dollars to help make sure that those type of things can be made a possibility for those who want to come into the county. But there's nothing that we can do. I know there's one that was just allocated over in the township. There's nothing we could do to stop that or to even make it happen. So no, we don't have that. But if there was something that I could do, I would definitely find out everything that I can legally and make sure that those companies are following the guidelines before they come to ask us for something like that, because you never know what's going to happen if you don't get all the background of the business that is coming in. You never know what they're going to bring into the town. So those are things that we really don't need as far as our citizens having guns. Most of the violence that's happening in our county is happening because people are bringing in illegal guns. There was a raid in the township last year where someone was selling illegal guns. There was a house that was broken into that had a whole bag full of guns stolen, and there was cars that have been broken into that had stolen. That 1% of those who are committing those crimes are not getting guns from stores that are selling these guns. They're mostly on the market, such as those gun shows and things. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, your turn, Ms. Sommerville.
Thank you. Yeah, there's really difficult limitations on what locals can do with respect to gun control. But I do think that in the state of Michigan, there's legislation that would allow local governments to ban weapons inside their facilities. It's something that on city council, we brought forward as a resolution to support the legislature adopting that. I highly doubt in this legislature that it will go through, but I also care deeply about flipping both the House and the Senate so that we can get good common sense gun legislation through that will impact us at the local level. I also believe in efforts to encourage safe storage. So I think something that the county could do is help people with the cost of safe storage items that might be a burden on families, but also in the city, we've done gun buyback programs to get guns that youth have obtained in unlocked vehicles or however illegally maybe, and really made, I think, a good effort a few summers ago, and many guns were bought back through the police department. So while there's limitations on gun control at the local level, I think there are some things that we can do and invest resources in to get guns, whether they're illegal or not, out of hands of people who shouldn't have them, especially youth. And I would support putting resources towards that, but also on a larger scale, supporting any legislation that would give local control for us to limit guns inside city halls and township boardrooms and county boardrooms, as well as polling locations on election day, because many kids are in school when folks are voting. And I think it's a huge safety risk, and it's not something that children should have to see in school. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Sommerville, you're up first on this one. Some areas within the county, such as Ann Arbor, are very successful in attracting capital. Please identify one or two specific strategies to attract and retain businesses elsewhere in the county.
Yeah, I think, often you see success when economic development tools and incentives are used. I support using those, especially in places in the east side of the county that have environmental contamination from many sites that have been vacant for years. I think really investing it not only cleans up toxic areas, but it also can make communities safer by having active uses in the community and making them more walkable. So I really think just better investing in environmental contamination cleanup, as well as looping that in with economic development. I think the two go hand in hand, and it's an easy way to get businesses invested, but also housing. Some businesses choose not to come to certain places because there's a lack of access to housing or walkable space. So many people like to be able to walk or bike to work. And so if you can't find a place that's walkable to a new business, then it's going to be hard to get employees that are interested in being in a space because they don't want to commute an hour and even a half hour, even sometimes. So just making everything a little bit, environmental cleanup, economic development, but also really making it an attractable area with providing better options for housing, workforce housing, really that missing middle, as well as affordable for people who are just getting out of college. Thank you.
Thank you. And you are up first on the next question. The cost of conducting elections has escalated for reasons such as an increased volume of absentee ballots and other expansions of voter services. Are election operations in Washtenaw County adequately funded? And if not, what could be done to adequately support elections?
That's for me. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So how you do that is you really have to look at the overall picture of the county clerk's office and what they have to handle during those elections, and then coordinating with all of the municipalities at the same time. Our voting elections have been funded real well, and we have had a lot of times when things are disputed, but those disputes usually turn out to be taken care of and to be made sure that they're not repeating themselves. So yeah, we do have an adequate funding here with voting. As far as what's happening at the state, there's some things that may come down that would be very hard for people to vote because of the ID and all of those type of things that are happening at the state level. So our county has been really exceptional when it comes to dealing with the voters and voter registration processes during our election times.
And I apologize for skipping your turn on the previous question. But now, Ms. Sommerville, if you could answer the question on elections.
Yeah, can you repeat the question? The full question?
Sure. The cost of conducting elections has escalated for reasons such as an increased volume of absentee ballots and other expansions of voter services. Are election operations in Washtenaw County adequately funded? And if not, what could be done to adequately support elections?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't a second, another put those things. So yeah, I think we've seen this in the city where we've had to actually make budget amendments to increase support for the clerk's office. I think we're going to continue to see, well, there's actually it's difficult to get people to work elections right now. So I actually think that we need to do more to invest and retain people to be poll workers. And we also right now, clerks can't start counting ballots until the election day, until polls open on election day. So I think there's definitely an increase in staff, and obviously that comes down to the local municipality, but I think there are ways that the county can help retain and do some outreach to get folks to work elections. But we'll see, over the next few years, there may need to be increases to support absentee voting as more people get engaged and want to become permanent absentee voters. That's going to always increase the cost. And depending on what becomes a ballot initiative this cycle, for better or for worse, we could see significant change. And I think that going forward, if we see stricter regulations on voting, we need to really make sure we focus on the areas that are going to be the most impacted, which are the high density urban areas, but specifically areas with a larger Black population. So I would support at the county level really investing to make sure that folks in high density areas have equal access to voting as people on the western side of the county do. Thank you.
Thank you. And now it's time for closing statements. Reminder that you each have 90 seconds to offer a closing statement. And we will begin with, says here, Mr. Jefferson.
Well, thank you once again for your advocacy and getting information out to the community. I appreciate your work that you've done over the years. I just wanted to say that I have an election that is for a time such as this when the changes that I have been helping to implement at the county to deal with equity lens, to deal with making sure that our departments, department heads, our administration becomes more diverse and equitable and inclusive. And that has been a challenge, but it is slowly turning this ship, and it's going to take some time. I'd like to continue doing that. And this as far as constituents, I definitely have a good relationship with constituents all over. They call all the time, and so they're always looking for me to do some resolutions or do some type of solving their problems on a daily basis. You know, whether it's cutting down trees or finding out why trees can't be cut down, whether it's doing some things in the community, such as helping the water that was running for 50 years at a church to get stopped by getting a contractor for them. So I love the people that live in this county and in my city and in the township, and I want to continue to help them as a county commissioner.
Thank you. Ms. Sommerville.
Thank you. All right. Again, my name is Annie Sommerville. I'm running for County Commission because I love Ypsilanti. I believe in helping people every day navigate governmental services to make their lives better. I believe government can play a really huge role in life outcomes and expectancy for folks. I really am focused on making sure that everybody has access to housing, that it's not a burden on them, that they're not one paycheck or one disaster away from becoming homeless. I'm interested in focusing on that as a leading issue, as well as making sure that our seniors can age in place with dignity, that we can really continue navigating the complications of the climate crisis without further impacting the most marginalized people, in particular, low income seniors and really Black residents who often face the burden of disasters, of natural disasters. So the climate crisis is here. I'm really focused on making sure that people are not further burdened by housing inaccessibility as we navigate that. I really think that it's an issue of both environmental racism and really if we don't work on housing now, prison and jail will become an alternative to housing access if we're not prepared for the future. I also am really eager to stand up for abortion access in the next coming years as things get really difficult. And I believe that the county can be a leader in that. Thank you.
Well, thanks to both of the candidates for participating in this valuable session and making your views available to the public. Jill Cohen will now provide closing comments.
The League would like to thank the candidates for participating in tonight's forum, and we'd like to thank those who contributed questions. All our candidate forums are available for streaming on your computer or smartphone. Go to our website, lwvwashtenaw.org, and look for the link to these programs. In addition, the forums can be viewed on Ann Arbor's cable television news. Please urge your friends and fellow residents to watch these forums and share the links with them. For additional nonpartisan information on candidates and ballot issues, go to vote411.org, the League's voter resource guide covering local, state, and federal candidates and current proposals that will appear on your ballot. As a reminder, all voters are now eligible to cast an absentee ballot. In addition, while voters are encouraged to register ahead of time, Michigan law now provides for Election Day registration. So please remember, whether by absentee ballot or in person, be sure to vote in the August 2nd primary elections. Thank you and good evening.